Okay, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope that you can hear me, and I do apologize, just as Agnieszka did, for these technical problems that we have. But I suppose that is just part of modern living. These things happen to us. So I wish you all a welcome to this conference, which is the third that we have in respect of On the Green Way. And today I'm here in Warsaw, beautiful sunny day, and I'm looking out from the office at green trees in the park. And that is how I hope our cities will continue to be, and that they will improve, and we will have all this wonderful greenery around us. However, we are here to discuss what we can do to improve the living in the cities in the future. And we know that more and more of us are going to move to the cities and live there. So it is very, very important. We're going to spend a lot of time there, and we have to look after these cities for the future of our children. And I'm delighted that today we have an excellent panel of experts. We have representatives from Copenhagen, from Oslo, from Warsaw and Malmö, all cities that are taking this very seriously. And I look forward to hearing their comments and how we can help to make sure that this also happens in Poland, that we have the cities that we wish to have. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time. We've lost some time due to the technical issues. I will pass you over to the moderator, which in this case, I have to tear off my piece of paper because it's not Marta, it's Agnieszka. Agnieszka, please go ahead.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to welcome you on the first panel during the conference on the Greenway. As Karsten mentioned, there is a change in the moderator role, so I have the honor today to welcome experts from different leading Nordic companies and the cities of Warsaw and Oslo. So let's start maybe shortly. I will present our panelists. Marcin Andrzejczyk, Regional Marketing Manager from Farna. Welcome, Marcin. Good morning.
Good morning.
Anna Hodor, Project Development Director, White. Thank you very much, Anna, for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Maria Dolniak, Sustainable Building Consultant and Board Member of the Future Cities Foundation from Polska.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Mr. Leszek Drogosz, Director, City of Warsaw Infrastructure Department. Hello, Leszek.
Hello, good morning.
Gott Hagerup, Head of Oslo Office, C40 Cities. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
And Monika Kupska-Kupis, Architect at Velux Polska. Welcome, Monika.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing challenges, as Karsten mentioned at the opening, and we know that by 2050, 70% of population will be living in cities. That gives us a lot of challenges to face in terms of building and creating livable cities. I would like to move already to the questions, and first one I would address to excellent architect from Velux, Monika. You know that people are spending most of the time indoors in urban areas, and considering air quality, daylight, thermal environment affect productivity, well-being and health, what is essential now from the perspective of architect? How we can create buildings that will be possible for people to feel comfortable in and live and work and just create the space for them?
Well, maybe I will start from that the way we are looking at the cities and the buildings has changed. in the past few years, we have concentrated mostly on reducing energy consumption in the buildings. And nowadays, we look more at the users, people who occupy the buildings, and they are in the center of our thinking about the design of the buildings and planning the cities. And it is important also to think about future of next generations and care much more about environmental issues. We live in the world where the impact of human beings on the environment is becoming increasingly apparent. And we no longer talk about climate change and global warming, but now we talk about climate crisis and global heating even. So at the same time, resources are becoming scarce, and we are more and more focused on healthy living. So from our perspective, the human beings, the investors, the occupants are in the center of our way we think about the designing of the buildings and planning the cities. We can how we Velux look at the future buildings or the buildings we work on. We think there are three general factors which we should take into consideration while we are working on a new design or planning new investment, new settlements. The first one, which is very much connected with the people, it's comfort, because the energy efficiency or energy energy efficiency is not enough when we should still look at the people and create the spaces which are comfortable, which have good daylight conditions, fresh air, combined with comfortable indoor temperature and noise reduction. And also the materials should have a neutral or even possible impact on comfort and indoor climate. The second factor, which I already mentioned, is energy, which means positive energy balance in the buildings using energy efficient solutions, and also the way we take energy. I mean, energy sources should be from the renewable energy or the source from local collective energy system, which have much lower impact on environment than centralized energy systems. And the third one, which is on an equal level as the ones I mentioned already, it's environment. And while we are creating new investments, we should also think about the impact on the environment. And the most the best way is to create the investment that way that this impact is positive, or minimize the negative impact on the environment. And we should think about biodiversity. We should think about local context, how to protect water, air, soil, and different kind of fauna and flora, and how to use the resources and how reuse materials. So we are looking at the materials. We are building our new investments the way how to reuse some of them, not to create the negative impact on environment. So this is the way how architects now look at the creating new buildings and new building sector, how we should think about it.
issue of using the recycled materials. We know that 60% of buildings in Poland are older than 40 years, and Velux has a really insightful report called Barometr Zdrowych Domów, Healthy Houses Barometer. And you mentioned there about new regulations that are introduced to tighten the parameters for energy and newly constructed and renovation of the buildings. Can you share with us, Monika, also your insights in that respect, especially of the existing buildings in Poland?
Well, the new regulations is a fact. So I think there is no issue to comment that. We just should fulfill all the conditions which we have in the new regulations. But when we talk about renovation, which is really a big segment in whole Europe and also in Poland, the main we face some barriers which limit the number of renovations, and which we see as the main factors why the renovation process is so slow. One of the most important, it's on the side of investors, especially private investors. They said in the report, or they mention in the report, that they don't feel they have enough knowledge how to go through the process. And the second thing is that they don't know how healthy buildings can impact on their daily life. So they can't see why they should renovate their houses. Usually they see the short-term benefits, for example, lower costs of the energy in their house when they isolate their buildings. But in fact, when we are talking about renovation, we should look more on a more complex investment, not only on isolation or changing windows. It should be a complex renovation, especially when we are talking about the old houses, which really need quite a lot of changes, and the conditions nowadays in those buildings are really, really poor. And those unhealthy buildings, how we call them, they have really a bad influence on the health of the occupants, especially children. They suffer asthma, allergy, and different. We observe different problems. Also, the houses which don't have enough daylight, they are not good for people to live there. So we also, from this research, Barometr Zdrowych Domów, Healthy Home Barometer, we got some answers. What are the key elements or key barriers which slower the process of renovation? The first one, which I already mentioned, is information, lack of available and understandable information regarding efficiency and comfort benefits resulting from renovation. The second one is split incentives. It means that especially in the houses which are rented, the tenants are unlikely to renovate because the incentive is time limited, and landlords are unlikely to renovate because they do not see themselves as immediate beneficiaries of the investments. There is also a lack of awareness of business case. inability or unwillingness to see renovation as positive long-term investment, to calculate cost and benefits such as increased home resale value, or we are not looking at the renovation as an investment in our health. I mean, when talking about users of the house, but also this city or governmental or on governmental level, we are not taking into consideration the cost for health as in fact we pay for health, healthcare sector and related medical and social services, which are connected with the very poor household conditions. This is, in my opinion, also very important factor. And also capital markets, especially in the light of financial crisis, lenders and less effective facilitating this time of the investment. There is a lack on available information about facilitating and financially renovation investments.
Monica, you tackle a lot of important issues, including well-being of people living in the cities, and this is something really close to Scandinavian way of thinking about communities. And I would like to emphasize that this affects our mental and physical health, and the whole entire communities can be developed or planned in a better way. So, Maria, Maria representing Sweco, you are preparing a lot of urban insights, and what can we plan better in cities, and how we can transform an urban living and spaces for people that are using cities spaces.
So maybe I will just start from the beginning, because you have mentioned about urban insight. So this is the idea in Sweco that is about like sharing the knowledge between ourselves, between different countries, as we have different competences, different experiences in different fields. And this is also about sharing knowledge within a bigger audience. So we prepare reports on different topics, which are freely available for you also to download. And this year, the main topic is healthy cities, actually. So this is the greatest topic for here to say right now. So the theme of these reports now are about also COVID issues related to the cities, how much affects our health, how urban planning, urbanization is affecting, like from air pollution to activity and activity of citizens, to also at the end of depression when it comes to lack of green spaces. But we can do better, surely we can do better. Our society is becoming more and more aware. Our government is becoming more aware. So there are examples of best practices, so we should follow it and also like to share knowledge between ourselves. So for me, when I was thinking about what should we do to plan it better, firstly, what we should do is we should change priorities. That's the basic thing when it comes to sustainability. We should pay attention to those factors, and we should try to really put sustainability at the top of the list. When we are thinking about different developments, starting from one single building to just to a community or even whole of the city. So put sustainability at the top of the list. And require it from different facilities, different departments, also in the same company and the government. So let's change the priorities firstly. Then what we can do is to, there is a very interesting concept which is becoming more and more popular, which is 15-minute city. This is about, this is also good when it comes to COVID issues, which we have experienced recently. So in 15-minute city, it means that you have all of the necessary facilities, services nearby. So in just 15 minutes of walk, or by using just cycle. And so everything is near. And also the buildings should be also adapted in the way that they can change function. There are, for examples, there are some examples like of ideas. Firstly, the school is dedicated from Monday to Friday for education purpose, but then it can change to another function. So we have to think also about buildings and changing the function of its normal and normal using. So firstly, like the 15-minute concept, it makes you and it keeps you less distance. You don't need to travel so much. So we reduce also the emission related to the cars and transportation. Also interesting concept, which I have recently read in one of the Urban Insights, 1-minute city. This is a pilot project in Sweden. And this is not about putting all of the necessary services in just 1 minute. This is about changing the imagination, changing the view of the streets. So actually, they want to change. How do you see your neighborhood, like outside of your door? You are changing the view of your street. What do you want to have there? And normally, streets are for moving and storing cars. And in Sweden, they want to have a pilot project, and with citizens, they want to change the views of the streets to be more livable for them, to be more attractive. So this is also a nice concept. And what should I also say here? It's implementing blue and green infrastructure in the cities. This is, for me, for now, is must-have solution. We shouldn't consider it as a something extra. We should do it in small, really, development and whole of the cities, because blue and green infrastructure have it's like a win-win solution. So it gives you a lot of features, a lot of benefits with just one solution. So, for example, this is about health of the people. This is about retaining the rainwater. This is about lowering heat island effect. So we have a lot of issues. It's just one solution, blue-green infrastructure. And what Ms. Monika said about energy is not enough. We were really focusing on just energy issues. It's really important, yes. And what Ms. Monika said is not enough, because we have to consider something more. We have to consider about biodiversity, accessibility of roads, roads dedicated for cyclists, for pedestrians. We have to think about biodiversity, rainwater management. So this is a lot to think, but still, this is the time that we have to think about it. Also, this is also worth to mention that we are getting older. Our society is getting older. So actually, we are going to live in that kind of cities that we have created now. So we should be aware that the sustainability factors like energy, water, waste issues, air quality, noise should be our top priority for now.
Thank you very much, Maria. It's, as you both mentioned, and Monika and Maria, it's really complex issues we are facing, and we tried to plan this conference to tackle also those issues on waste management, so that topic will be covered in the second panel discussion, and also technology that can be helpful for cities planning, etc. So we will cover those topics in SPCC during the whole conference, and I'm sure not for the last time. But let's move back one more time to the energy. Anna, you are representing a Finnish developer present in Poland for many years now and still investing here and building a lot of new buildings, new offices, and new residential and mixed-use buildings. So the construction companies are responsible for 40% of greenhouse emissions. Yes, and nearly half of the energy consumed in Poland is spent on heating, air conditioning, heating water in buildings, and do Finns have a way to decrease actually the cost of energy and how to manage this part of gas emissions? Can we hear Anna? Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes? Yes, okay, perfect. So yes, indeed, the construction sector, it's responsible for almost 40% of greenhouse gases emission. So that's a lot. Around 10% of this number, it's related to the construction itself and to the production of building materials. And up to 30% of this number, it's related to building operations. So yes, as you mentioned, it's related to heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and energy systems operating in buildings. And even though for many years now, builders, real estate developers, policymakers, all the stakeholders of this construction sector, they are making more and more efforts to reduce these emissions. These numbers are not really decreasing significantly, and that's also related to the fact that the floor area of buildings and the populations is growing. So I believe that we have to do more, and I think, in my opinion, I would name 5 areas which we should work on the most. And the first area, in my opinion, it's the society awareness and education, because I think it's all about people. And it was already mentioned here during this panel. It's all about people. It's people who are the policymakers and who are deciding on what will be the building regulations and requirements. It's people who work in real estate developer companies and who are deciding whether to design buildings in this way or in the other way. And it's people who decide whether they want to live in a more or less environmentally friendly environment. And it's people who are, I don't know, owners of the companies and who decide whether they want to rent an office in a building which is certified or not. So it's all about people. And I think this awareness is changing and it's increasing. It is going in a good direction. I may say from my not professional but educational experience that I used to study more than 10 years ago at the Warsaw University of Technology. So it's one of the best technical universities in Poland. And more than 10 years ago, I used to have a subject that was related to energy systems in buildings. And it was really titled professor who was a lecturer there. And he was arguing that global warming, it's some sort of fake artificial concept and it doesn't exist. So it was the attitude not that long time ago, 10 years ago. And now I may say that currently I am doing an MBA program and we have sort of new venture projects. So we are, all the participants, we are thinking about like new business ideas, which can be incorporated in business. And I can tell that I was really surprised, but more than half of those new business ideas of the participants, they were related to sustainability issues and green development of the environment. So it's really great. This awareness is really like getting better and better. And I think it will be the key driver for the transition and decarbonization of the construction sector. So so that's first and most important area, I would say. And then next areas, the second area I would name, it's public policies. So it's very important, and maybe it's not the popular what I would say, but authorities, local authorities, governmental authorities, European Union, they can be very influential, and they have very strong resources to create the law, create building regulations, and to somehow force the construction to move towards the green way. And it's also public support which can be given to real estate developers. For example, YIT here in Poland, 1 year ago we decided that we don't want to connect quite big investment in northern district of Warsaw. We don't want to connect this investment to the gas heating network, but we would like to connect it to the district heating. District heating, it was not available in this area, but thanks to our initiative, but also thanks to great support from the public institutions, we managed to construct more than 1 kilometer of a heating pipe, of a heating district to be able to make greener investments in this neighborhood. So I think public support, it's a really, really important factor. And then third thing, I would say it's financing of this green transition, because financing and money, it's important factor. And I'm very, very happy that there are more and more initiatives, financial initiatives, both public and private ones, which support this green investments. And I can say that YIT in Finland, so our central office in Finland, this year in March, they announced that they will release 100 million euro green bonds. And these green bonds, they will finance only green investments. There will be quite strict requirements for the investments which can be financed by this financial instrument. All the buildings, they have to be at least A or B energy class. So in Poland, we don't have exactly the same energy classes, but it's so they have to be energy efficient. And also there have to be second requirement. For example, these investments, they would have to be certificated on a certain level, or for example, they would have to be characterized by energy efficiency, which is at least 10% lower than building regulations in the country. So I think such initiatives, such a financial support for really green investments, it will be also a green driver towards this lowering of energy consumption. And two other working areas, very shortly. So one working area is measuring of current situation, gathering data and gathering all the necessary information, because we are saying that we need to to cut the CO2 emissions until 2030 by 50%. It's our YIT goal, and I think it's the goal of many companies in this construction sector. And are we really aware of how much do we produce right now? Not globally, not in Poland, not as a sector globally, but how much do we produce as a company by our own operations, by our own investments? I think it's crucial that we start gathering this data. So in YIT, since 2019, we started piloting projects, and right now we are calculating this greenhouses emissions from our own operations for all the new projects. And based on this data, currently we are trying to develop such a greenhouse CO2 roadmap, how to reduce this CO2 emissions by 50%. And so based on this data that we gather, we are identifying the factors which are which have the most potential. So working on these factors can reduce the most significantly the CO2 emissions, and this fact we are also trying to identify the factors which are most feasible to implement. For example, we know that prefabrication is great for the reducing of CO2 emissions, and prefabrications we believe it can be implemented in all of the countries where YIT operate. But for example, wooden prefabrication, we decided that in Poland it's too early to implement this wooden prefabrication, at least for now. But in Finland, it's a great way, and we would like to extend the scope of wooden prefabrication in Finland. Okay, and the last thing, it's related to the fifth sector. I would say it's related to the market transformation. So a lot has been said already. For example, Monica mentioned renovation of these old buildings. So this market transformation is about how do we design new buildings and how do we take care of the old buildings. And maybe just a few words, because how to lower the energy consumption in buildings. We know that there are great ways like implementing heat pumps in the design, implementing recuperations in the design, implementing photovoltaics. So there are many systems which are still quite expensive and it's not realistic to start implementing all of those systems from tomorrow, unfortunately, because of these financial reasons. But there are very small things which can be done and which can be implemented by the real estate developers, residential real estate developers. For example, one idea is to use not black roofs, but white roofs. So it's not very expensive to paint the roof in white, but like white color, we all know that it's reflecting the sunlight, and because of this reflection, it's helping to lower the temperature of the building. So very easy thing, which can be very easily implemented. Another way would be for example, to offer some smart devices to people, to the clients, so that they can measure their own energy consumption. And there are many reports on this energy consumption, and some reports, they say that just by measuring, when people measure how much do they consume of the energy, they already start using less energy, and it's like 5 or 10% less energy consumption, just because we know how much do we spend and how much energy do we use. So there are huge things which should be done, but there are also very small and easy and not very expensive things which can be done by real estate developers to help this green transformation in the sector.
Thank you, Anna, for sharing this. We were just not attacking the real estate sector. We are just based on the data provided by many sources. What you mentioned was really important for us. We are all, as a SPCC community and Scandinavian business, really focused on partnerships. And we know that the change can be driven only when we join forces together, and that's why we are also here today. But you mentioned really good partnership with the city of Warsaw, a good example of how it can be done. And Leszek is representing city of Warsaw, a city that has many inhabitants in Poland, the biggest city in Poland. And I know that city of Warsaw has planned to introduce the green Warsaw vision and to reduce the greenhouse emissions by 30% within actually next 9 years, Leszek. So that's really ambitious plan. Can you share with us a bit of the plans that City of Warsaw has in that respect?
Thank you for that introduction. And so in the beginning, I'd like to say that Monica, Marta, and Anna, they spoiled my comments, because they said almost everything what I was trying to say about what we are doing and what we what kind of thoughts we have about the future of the city of Warsaw, and of course our other partners surrounding our city. So, and also my comment about that 3 presentations from the commercial sector is that Naomi Klein, with her book "This Changes Everything," she criticized deeply commercial sector, and I see that this commercial sector has a lot of very green ideas and very innovative models of thinking about how to develop these sectors in future. So this is very good news. And from coming back to city of Warsaw, I think that the first what we have in our minds, this is to think about Warsaw and about current and future city from the perspective to have open city with active citizens, to have city climate friendly, to have city healthy, resilient to climate change, and of course smart and open for that for all innovations. And so from this perspective, we have to be still open for everything was coming to us also from commercial sector, but we also have to hear deeply our citizens and of course NGOs' voices. So from when we think about implementation of that ambitious goals for the future, we are working in several ways. Of course, we have to think about how to improve our transportation in the city of Warsaw. We have pretty well working public transportation system, but we have the real problem with private cars, because that number of private cars is growing every year. Currently, we have more than 1.5 million cars in our city. So the city is about 2 million inhabitants. So it means that really a lot. And this is that very, very important problem, how to reduce this, thinking about I need 1 car more in my family because 1 car is not enough, or that kind of other thoughts we have in a lot of Warsaw homes. So to develop transportation and to give the offer of transport, we have to think also about how to green our transportation system. So from for instance, perspective of the city buses, we are changing our fleets from diesel engines to electric ones, to hybrids, to natural gas powered, and so from the 2 years ago, from 2019, we stopped purchasing other buses. We are purchasing only green ones. So this is that one of work we are implementing to make our transportation greener. And of course, that last year of pandemic time, so it was the hard time for the public transportation, because that place was one of the reasons when people are together in the small area, and so it was the problem to say people come back to public transportation, its safety, and so we have to make some kind of restart of promotion of public transportation after the pandemic time. So from the transportation point of view, I think that we have to make stronger our public transportation, but of course we have to prepare some better conditions for the development of green private transportation as well, like for instance charging stations for electric cars and so on and so on. So from this perspective, we are working very hard to make this better, and a lot of other actions with, for instance, trying to develop further and further our bike infrastructure. So we are constructing a lot of bike lanes. Currently, we have close to 7 100 kilometers of that bike lanes. We have very well working bike sharing system with almost 6,000 bikes and with almost 400 bike rental stations. So this is what is describing our thinking about to change a mobility model. And of course, to change a mobility model, this is also necessary to think about walkers, about to make our cities, pavements friendly, to make this public space good, comfortable, open for walkers, for every kind of needs people have going to the city center or to some other places. And of course, that limitation of travels, this is also a very important aspect. So preparing our strategic documents, like for instance, Green City Action Plan, Climate Action Plan, what we are currently doing for this perspective of 2030. So we have to include also that kind of elements like energy efficiency of buildings, and this touching new constructed buildings. And we heard today some new ideas how to make this construction process more green, and how to change materials, how to change equipment for the buildings to make this more open for reduction of CO2 emissions. But also we have to think about existing buildings. So in Warsaw we have about 800,000 apartments. So that all places for living, almost all must change, must be more effective, must be greener, must be used in more climate-oriented way. So it is also necessary to change our habits. It is also necessary to make a much wider awareness about what we have to do and why we are doing this, why we have to remember about our future users of this land. So this is also very important to make this together with our citizens. And from this point of view, we have also take into account energy production and distribution sector. So from this point of view, we are not owners of this, but we are partners for energy companies in city of Warsaw. So I have in mind a state-owned company like PGNiG Termika. I have in mind also Veolia. This is currently the largest district heating company in European Union. So Warsaw has the biggest system from that district heating point of view, and it's still extending. But this is also necessary to think about how this system will work in 2030, 2040, 2050, when we expect to be 100 decarbonized city. So from this climate neutrality point of view, we have to think, is it the same model for next 30 years like we have now? From technology point of view, from delivering of energy, from energy production, of course, point of view. So this is also a very important aspect. When we think about energy, we have to take into account, of course, renewable energy sources. So the city area is maybe not the best place for the very wide production of energy, but in our ideas for the implementation, we believe that we are ready in the city area to create a right space for the production of maybe even not only hundreds of megawatts, maybe even gigawatt of the potential energy production we could create in the city space. So from this perspective, we have to work, and also we have to change our public administration. So our public administration has to work in different models, has to take into account every time climate issues in every process of decision, in every process of investment planning. So every time it is necessary to remember about climate, to remember about processes we have every day different. So coming back for a moment to energy sector. So I think that when we will work together with energy sector companies, and when we will give them some kind of idea, model for a future, and give them possibility to understand what we are planning from our perspective. So probably they will change some plans and future models for organization of the companies, because we are not only administration body, we are also user of energy, and we also have big influence for some kind of processes of development on the city area. So we are currently preparing energy model for Warsaw for the year 2050. So we are looking for some kind of pathways to reach that goal of carbon neutrality for the city of Warsaw. So we are sure that this is necessary to completely remodel our energy distribution, energy production processes for this time. So we also have that kind of recommendation from our point of view that we'd like to support that conditions for the development of the so-called electro-prosumerism. So this is something what is also includes energy safety, and of course we are not forgetting about this. So so this electro-prosumerism could give us answer also for some works of some energy companies. So when we think in some examples of possible ways, we could also think about that heating system in the future Warsaw could be mainly based on the electricity. So it is possible. So if yes, we have to look for how to develop that kind of existing model of district heating system in the connection to that ideas of electrification of transportation, electrification of heating system, and electrification of some other sectors in our city. So this is very hard work to create possible and on the basis of the scientific technical analysis model for the city. From other point of view, this is of course necessary to remember about the adaptation to climate change. City of Warsaw adopted a strategy for the adaptation to climate change in the year 2019, and now we are on the way to implement a lot of sections of this subject. And one of this, it is what was mentioned today. This is like that blue and green infrastructure. So this is necessary to develop that areas. This is necessary to collect rainwater, to use this rainwater and take this as a real source of the water, and not a problem, but mainly by to take this as a solution. So from this point of view, we have to implement a lot of activities, and we also need the companies working in Warsaw. And a very important part, this is this developers sector, to work together with them to use the rainwater, to save this rainwater, and to make this biodiversity of the city stronger and better, thanks to that initiatives based on this model of nature-based solutions. And from our point of view, this is necessary to do everything together with our citizens. So this is necessary to give people possibility to have a much better understanding of what we are doing in our city. And one of that examples of works from this point of view, this is action we had last year, 2020. So we created Warsaw Climate Panel. And during this panel, we were debating with our panelists. We selected them in a specific model. We had finally 90 people being some kind of representation of all social and all generation groups. And so they were our decision makers to finally decide what we have to do in our future. So after that debate, we have 49 recommendations for the mayor of Warsaw, how to make Warsaw greener and what is necessary to work to change this landscape of our city and to make us a really green city, and to make the possibility to make this goal of carbon neutrality of Warsaw 2050, to make this together with our citizens, with the full understanding and the full support from citizens' side to do this. Because when we,
Thank you,
for instance, when we do this without them, this is impossible. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry to cut a bit, but what you were saying was really interesting, and I hope there will be a chance we can share the story and plans of City of Warsaw with the PCC community one more time, maybe in a different format. But we also have a representative of Oslo with us, and Gote needs to leave us in a few minutes, unfortunately, and we apologize really for the delay one more time. Gote, can you share Oslo story and how Oslo strategy fits also the big C40 city strategy, and what's your solutions for to become more and more green?
Yes, and sorry that I have to leave quite soon, so I'll be very brief and just give one great example. I think so many good things have been mentioned in this panel, so I don't need to replicate all that. But Oslo has seen that, as also was mentioned, that the emissions coming from the construction sector is huge. So they have used their purchasing power through public procurement to try to achieve zero emission construction sites. And they saw that there isn't existing machinery for construction that is sufficiently low emission. It doesn't exist. So they thought we can create this market if we use our procurement muscles. And they asked the private sector, what would it take to make you develop zero emission machinery? They said, well, if the market is big enough, we can do it. And so then Oslo collaborated with other cities in Norway, and they gathered forces around this and said that, okay, we will all procure, ask for now zero emission construction machinery. And they did. And this happened in 2017, I think. And then in 2019, we had the world's first battery-driven machinery in place. And now it's a huge demand for zero-emission construction machinery from the companies that developed this. And through the C40 network, we are now scaling this up through a clean construction declaration that has been signed by so far Oslo, Los Angeles, Mexico City, and Budapest. And more cities will sign this declaration during this year and next year. And as they do, the market will grow. And that's the way we believe that we can achieve our Paris Agreement targets. It needs to be good business to be green. And the public sector just needs to use their purchasing power to drive the market for green solutions. So that's one of the great stories. Warsaw is also a member of C40, Stockholm, Copenhagen as well, and there is a lot of great collaboration between these cities that is all about what I just said, trying to shift markets, trying to create demand for green solutions. So thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry I have to leave, but yes, good luck to
Really,
everyone
for
on the Green Shift.
Thank you very much for sharing really quickly what are the solutions and partnerships in developing C40 and all the infrastructure for this. Thank you for joining us, and for sure we will talk with Goethe again. And the last 3 minutes, really, I apologize for cutting this time frame, but we are late and we need to close the panel. I wanted to ask Marcin from Husqvarna. We had a really inspiring talk 2 weeks ago about Husqvarna and actually Urban Green Space Index that Husqvarna does every year. And there are 3 Polish cities in this index. Warsaw, Kraków, and Wrocław included in the greenest metropolises in the world. And can you share, Marcin, with us how Husqvarna influences the green areas in cities? Especially you mentioned to me before Warsaw, and can you share how you're making Warsaw more green for us?
Thank you for having me. Let me come back just briefly to the Husqvarna Green Space Index. Yes, we are the world leading power outdoor producer of machines for shaping the nature. And what we see is exactly the same trends that was mentioned here. So we will, in majority, we will live in the cities. So we do care how the quality of life in the cities will look like. There was another keyword mentioned very often, like partnerships. So why we are doing? Well, first to understand the changes, and secondly, to use the data taken from the satellite and used and processed by the artificial intelligence to draw some conclusions as a start of the discussions between different partners on such a forums like this one. So when we think about the global trends, so we see that from our research that on a global level, there is a slight decline in green urban spaces. The decline is driven actually by Asia, and being more specific by China, where the big cities are really booming and they are struggling with the green spaces. Whereas Europe or Northern America, this is an area where actually the green spaces in cities are increasing. Why it is so important? Well, my colleagues or speakers before, they have been mentioning or focusing a lot about emissions. What we are thinking from the other way. I mean, how to actually be neutral from a carbon dioxide emission, for example, but not the emission, but rather how the green space can help in reducing actually or accumulating the CO2. So from one hand, what we see that the cities are changing and the green areas or green spaces in the cities are changing as well. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, there is a growing awareness among the mayors of the cities. There is a great influence from the citizens itself, just like Warsaw example that Leszek was mentioning. But we see that the change will not happen just like that. I mean, it has to be a process. It has to be a conscious decision. And what we are trying to do when talking to our potential customers, when we are talking to the municipalities, is to show actually that the green space may play a very purposeful role. So from one hand, it helps in the climate issues. So global warming, CO2 emissions, or biodiversity. From the other hand, very important is the quality of life of inhabitants, because being in the nature makes us better. I mean, from a mental perspective, it reduces stress, but also from a physical perspective. So what we are doing, we are trying to work with the partners and shape the nature purposefully. So for that exact purposes, we are of course providing with solutions. And Goethe mentioned the purchasing power or purchasing muscles, as he used the expression from Oslo, that actually the municipality is demanding from the producers to provide zero emissions products. And this is what we do. We are the world leader of robotic lawnmowers. our products, Husqvarna Automower, is zero-emission lawnmower. You can see on the background, those kind of machines can work in public spaces with no emissions, meaning no fumes or no noise. That was mentioned also as an issue in the cities. So when you have a nicely cut grass, for example, in the Wilanów Palace, the grass is mainly cut by our robots. From the other hand, yes, we as citizens, we do expect the green spaces to be open, to be actually designed for us, so we could spend our free time there. But when we think about the green spaces, then of course they have to be put in a great condition. So the gardeners have a lot of work to do it. So when we are there, sometimes also the gardeners are working in the background. So how to make it still usable, where you have to change the technology to have the solutions which are emissions-free, like fumes, as mentioned, but also the noise. And here comes the whole battery range of power tool tools to really shape the nature, just like in Oslo example. So I would refer once again to the partnerships. The change can happen, and we see in Europe, we see in Northern Americas that the cities are becoming really green, also from the color perspective, because more green spaces are there. But we have to do it in a collaborative way. So the NGOs, the private sector, and the public governments, we all have to work together to really drive that change. So this kind of forum, as we are attending right now, is a great place to share the experiences, to inspire ourselves. But at the end, it is great some working discussions how we can actually merge our forces, because this is the only way to make the revolution, which is the title of this conference, really a reality in our cities.
Thank you, Marcin, very much, and I apologize for the time frame, short one, and such an interesting solutions Husqvarna is introducing to the cities, and of course, automation of processes is really crucial for also energy efficiency. I would like to, from the deep of my heart, thank you very much for a really nice panel and sharing all the good examples how we can build sustainable cities. And it's such a complex issue. And I'm sure we will talk about it more and more. And thank you for sharing experience from the Scandinavian Nordic perspective. Thank you to Monika, Maria, Anna, Leszek, Marcin, and Gote. Thank you so much, and we invite you for the second panel. I hope it will start within a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning. My name is Julia Patorska, and I'm honored to be here and moderate the next panel. It will be the second session, and we will be talking about circular cities. Why about cities? On a global scale, cities use about 1% of land, only 1%. However, they house more than half of the population globally, and in Europe, it's even 75% of the European population. We see this increasing urbanization. The share of population living in the cities will increase, and it is expected to increase up to 70% globally. And in Europe, it will be even 85%. As a consequence, many cities suffer from emissions to air, to water, noise, and congestion. And there is a huge need for change. So how business, how administration, municipalities, and NGOs can effectively lead the green revolution in Polish cities. And today with me, I will be talking with my honored guest. Let me introduce Ms. Isabella van den Bosch from Fortum, Hans Christiansen from the city of Copenhagen, Lars Ibsen from, from Stena Recycling Poland. And also we have Fredrik Lange-Fjell from Slum Rensing. And last but not least, Mr. Piotr Woźniakowski from National Center for Climate Change, Krajowy Ośrodek Zmian Klimatu. Welcome, and I hope we'll have a fruitful discussion. So let me start asking question to Isabella. We know that cleaner and highly efficient and emission-free energy system are necessary to build any sustainable city. The perfect waste is zero waste, but anyway, we know that vast majority of the municipal solid waste is still coming from consumer goods, and most of it is being landfill dumped or incinerated. So knowing what is Fortum doing and how is it operating, is waste to energy an option for now, as we are not recycling as much as we should be?
Thank you. Thank you for this question, and welcome everyone. Yes, waste to energy is definitely an option, and it's a must. It's I would say it's an integral part of any advanced waste management system. If you think about what you can do with waste, and if you read the EU directive, the first thing it says is that you need to prevent creating waste. And that is something that we have to learn, that we have to accept, and that we have to sort of make part of our life. So prevention is the first thing. But then if we can't prevent, and we will still create waste, we will have to think of how to reuse this waste and how to recycle the waste. So that's the second step, and that's sort of second level in the EU hierarchy. But then we can't reuse and recycle everything. So we have to think how we are going to recover what is left from what we cannot reuse or recycle, and then how we can dispose the rest of it. Waste to energy is part of the recovery solution. So we are trying to recover energy from waste. And as I said, if you cannot recycle and reuse, is it better to landfill waste, or is it better to do as much as possible from what there is? So recover energy and any metals, for instance, that we can also recover in waste to energy plants. I believe it's better to recover, and we all believe that as long as we will create as much municipal waste as we are creating today and will be creating for another decade to come, we need to have waste to energy plants in any cities that we want to live in a smart and a clean way. And to give you examples, lots of people feel that recycling is competing, or that waste to energy is actually competing with recycling, which is totally not the case. If you look at the European examples, you have wherever the recycling rates are the highest, which is, for instance, Austria, Germany, Netherlands, you have waste to energy plants there, and they are also very high rates of waste to energy, so recovery of heat and energy from waste. So it's not competing, it's sort of a supplement, and it goes hand in hand with recycling. And it will always do as long as we create waste, and there will be elements of waste for, as I said, decades to come if we talk to technology producers or packaging producers. There will be lots of waste coming our way, which we will have to do something with. And then the choice is whether we dispose or whether we recover whatever there is that we could.
I think we have some connection problems with Isabella. So let's see, and hopefully she will connect with us again. So maybe while talking about waste to energy, I would like to ask a question to Hans. City of Copenhagen, I think one of the most beautiful and also green cities in Europe. And definitely we can learn from you a lot thinking about the green revolution within Polish cities. And you are using a lot of waste to energy as a district heating network in the city of Copenhagen, but at the same time being a leader, a pioneer in being green city. Copenhagen has the ambition to become a zero carbon city in 2025. I think it's a challenge, and it sets further requirements for the waste management. As for most materials, there are overall savings in CO2 when we recycle instead of leading waste to incineration. So what and how do you want to achieve it? To do it, in fact.
And I can start taking up the line from Isabella. In Denmark, we have had waste incineration for the last 50 years or something like that. And in the beginning, it was just to get rid of the amount of waste. And then it was because we had the problem with landfills around. And then it was decided we have to recover the energy, as Isabella also talked about. So in fact, today, when you look at the incineration plants, we have an energy efficiency up to 75% because both have electricity production and district heat production. And the last thing have been one of the big issues in Greater Copenhagen area too, that we have waste incineration plants on the district heating system. And that was when we started talking about climate plans back in 2005 to 9. That was one of the key issues, that we consider waste incineration as a carbon neutral way of doing it, if we got the plastics out of the waste stream. And now we have learned something more, and now it's not the same. So we have to find new ways to do it. And that's part of it, that you need to have, for us to see, you need to have a comprehensive waste management planning. But you also at any time need to be very agile in it, because what you think one day will in 1 year or 5 years be wrong. So you have all time have to be agile to be able to change your systems and so on. And that part of it. And look at new energy sources, wind, sun, whatever.
Okay, that's very interesting, and definitely I think that's the way of thinking that is not competing, but it's something that is, parallel, but still having in mind what to be achieved regards to recycling. I think it's something that we have to remember, that it's not the way of just getting rid of the waste that is collected. But if I can switch to Lars, we know that cities' waste management system is not just about municipal waste. Cities are not just homes to citizens, but also they are homes to cluster, to business, to industries, and a lot of going on within the cities, just next to the places where we all live as a citizens. So how can circular business model support the circular transformation within the cities? Is it possible to cooperate within the cities and, for example, clusters and industries?
Because of two reasons, the industries are very important to take into account. Is that one is they generate a lot of waste, very big volumes. The industries. The other point is that at the industries we have a much better chance to segregate the different kind of waste materials at the source. Much better chance compared to municipal waste, where the collection chain is a little longer. So that enables us as Stena Recycling to work very closely with industrial clients in order to educate them how to sort their wastes into better materials and more clean. We say more clean materials. It means more types of waste materials, so that the chance to recycle or reuse the material again increases. Compared to previous years, we have much more attention now on collaborating between more industries when we look at the environmental footprint of products, and when we look at recycling, because it's not enough just to think of as a manufacturer. It's not enough just to think about your own production, because some of the products you make maybe cannot be used in your own products. Or some of the materials of your product can be reused and recycled into your own product, but a big part of it can be recycled or reused into other types of products. And that's where we more and more frequently the last years have close collaborations, not only with one industry or one manufacturer, but also with other manufacturers in order to close the loop. It requires more people engaged, and that's a very fascinating thing today. You have to look into create a circular economy. You have to look into the total value chain from design of the product. So you design the product so it is using more recycled material, raw material than virgin material. You design the product so that it can be recycled in an easier way or reused even. I think a good example of that is a recent cooperation we had with Electrolux about vacuum cleaners. Electrolux, together with Electrolux, we supported them in manufacturing a complete vacuum cleaner for your household of recycled and 100% from recycled raw materials or reused components. And there we, because of we handle hundreds of thousands of tons of electronic waste per year. So we were able actually to take out specific Electrolux vacuum cleaners, a specific model of all the waste we have. So in a relatively short time, we could take out a large amount of Electrolux vacuum cleaners from the waste. And that enabled Electrolux to analyze these end-of-life vacuum cleaners and see what components could be reused. And actually, up to 25% of the engines still had 80% of their lifetime back, so they could be reused in a new vacuum cleaner. But also a very close cooperation with Electrolux, Stena Recycling, and their suppliers of plastic components in how we could recycle and the plastic components from this vacuum cleaner. So that is a collaboration where we looked at the full value chain in order to create a circular economy around that product. But it cannot be done alone. You have to cooperate. And of course, I think a big change when you look at the products compared to the past is, in the past, manufacturers of products, they were hiding that they used recycled raw materials because it was seen as a lower quality and a way to save money from the consumer side. But today, more and more consumers demand that the products are manufactured by recycled raw materials, or that the products can be recycled or reused. So I think that is a very positive trend in consumer behavior. But there the cities again can help push and motivate citizens to change our behavior in order to be more positive and even demand reuse and recycling of material. And at the end, I would like to say, I confirm what Isabella and Hans said, that recycling and waste incinerating is not a competition. It's a cooperation, and we need close cooperation with companies also like Fortum in Poland in order to handle all the waste we get in and optimize the environmental footprint. Again, looking at the total value chain. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very important point about the collaboration. I think that many of the corporates, many of the big companies had gone to the limits of what they can save or how they can deal in order to have less waste. So any other step needs to be done in collaboration within the whole value chain, and the value chain and the elements of value chains needs to be seen by the specific entities that are within. However, we know it's very difficult. I mean, it's not, I would say, our normal business model. We usually think about ourselves as a business, and now we need to make this change. So thank you, Lars. This is definitely a very, very important point. But thinking about other resources, I mean, waste is something that we usually tackle upon when we are thinking about cities, because this is a huge challenge. But we have within the cities also challenges regarding, for example, water and the water pollution, the sewage system. So I would like to ask question to Fredrik. With regards to the water pollution and the impact of different investments, for example, so large scale investments like road projects or any other capex projects, building construction industry, all this when it's done within the city is often it's quite often also with the significance of the environmental pollution, also aquatic pollution. So is it a way, or how right now cities can deal with a new way of more safer way of doing such investments in order to keep the environment and the water mostly more safe?
Yes, hello everyone. We know that the cities are growing extremely, and there are a lot of focus and talk on energy, pollution and waste, but also we have to have focus on the water. To build this green city, water is a very important component. There are lack of water. The water start to get expensive, and the groundwater level are changing in a bad direction. And the regulation are stricter and stricter because of these reasons. And the water have also should also be recycled in a bigger way. And also the regulation in Europe now is, if we look at the sequel on projects that are more than 200 million euro, there are you have to have a energy look at the energy production and also the recycling of the water. And what we are into so far, that's we have the water cleaning plant in Norway, and most of the water cleaning plants, they are in the city. I think it's approximately 15 we have so far, and that goes to tunneling, where this boring machine produce a lot of water. The water had to be cleaned before it goes to a river or the official net or a lake inside the city. And the next is the building pits. This is building pits, big one that when it's raining, the building pits gets water into it, and it can also come water from underneath. And this water also has to be cleaned. What we have succeeded in Norway is to cooperate with the big companies, because water cleaning is difficult, and it's necessary to cooperate with the big companies. So because of this, the success we have had in Norway, with for example, we are cooperating with Skanska especially, and Veidekke, and Metrostar, and also Acciona. So therefore, we have done some research the last year in Europe, and we think there is a need for the cities to have some of the same system in other European cities. Yeah, so that's maybe the main answer to your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Fredrik. Yeah, so just thinking about potential benefits that cities can have where they are looking and thinking about being more circular. I have a question to Piotr Woźniakowski. Piotr, can you in a nutshell say what are the biggest opportunities that are created by circularity and by implementing the idea of circular economy into the cities?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your question. It's a pleasure to be here in this discussion. And just before I answer your question, I just wanted to also maybe underline and throw into the discussion the main element of the circular economy, which I'm usually focusing on, which is waste prevention. And that's also something that Isabella mentioned before. And as we speak here about waste and recycling, I would like to focus more on reusing materials in order to prevent waste production. So just as a start, and just answering your question, what are the potential economic, social, and environmental benefits created by the circular cities? Maybe I can start with the economic benefits. And I would say that definitely lower waste production, that we produce less waste, definitely can lead to lower waste management prices. And that's the case in Poland right now, that a lot of waste is being produced, but there are not so many facilities that can handle the waste properly. And that's why the prices of waste management are rising. And so there are two ways: we can either build more recycling facilities or waste management facilities, which is very much needed. And there is also the other way of waste prevention actions, which are also necessary to be taken. So those are those two paths. And there's another economic benefits that I would say are also very important is the new business models that are arising together with the concept of circular cities. And it's the new business models such as repairing services, with products that that we are trying to prevent from go to waste. There are many repairing services that can arise from that. And that's also based on the right to repair law that kind of puts really a pressure on producers to produce products that can be repaired and thereby avoid waste production. And also there is another business model that can also be new thanks to circular economy. It's the designing products in a way that it can be repaired, and also design products from the new materials such as secondary raw materials. And I think there is a huge area for innovation for materials and for new business models, for new startups to arise. And so going to another set of benefits, which is social benefits of a circular city, I would say maybe that's also something what Lars said before. It's the connection between different companies, between people, because that's essentially what circular economy is about connecting companies, connecting people to exchange materials, information. Some companies can produce waste that in other companies, this waste can be used as a material to produce new products. So this kind of industrial symbiosis and cooperation, that's definitely a social benefit. Also, sharing than owning, that's also a concept that goes together with the circular economy models, is that we don't own the products, but we share. And so that can also be, I would say, motivation to build communities around sharing products rather than just owning them. And of course, circular city is the livable city. And that's the goal of the circular city concept, is that it's livable, which means that it's walkable. It's also bike friendly or bikeable. I don't know if that's the word. That also the noise is reduced and pollution are much more reduced as well. So yeah. And the third one, which is environmental benefits, definitely lowering greenhouse gas emissions by avoiding landfilling. I think that's the very important element, because as we know, a lot of methane is being emitted from the landfill. So when you avoid sending waste to landfill, you avoid greenhouse gas emissions. And also by recycling, of course, and reusing, you avoid producing new products from virgin raw materials, which also can avoid a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. By avoiding the primary raw materials production. And of course, in Poland, there is a problem with waste in the forest around different cities. So that could also help to solve that problem. If you put a price on waste, then you can avoid waste being disposed or dumped in illegal spaces like forests. And I think that's an important case in Poland. Of course, clean air, that's related to for example, burning waste on the illegal dumps. And then the last one is increased climate resilience, which I think is very important, because when you build a circular city that it's kind of an independent from the external value chains, that makes the city more independent and more resilient to climate change, to different social changes and economic changes. So I think it's also very important to underline, talking about climate resilience, that circular city definitely help to build a climate resilient city. And that's it from me for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Piotr, for a very comprehensive answer. I think you tackled several important issues over here, but since we are really short of time, this panel is a little bit shorter because of the previous one. However, I would like to ask to all of you one question, and I would like to ask you to have a very short answer, like in 1 minute. For you, what does it mean, a smart circular city? How would you define it from the perspective of your entity, of your company? And Isabella, hopefully your connection will be better time and you won't be cut. So if you can please in a few words say, what does it mean for you? We cannot hear you. Oh, okay. Now we can.
Can you hear me now?
Now,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I hope. Yes, I hope I will be able to say what I want to say before I'm cut. What I wanted to say is that for me, smart city is about smart people. It's about smart solutions available, and it's about smart management, education, and sort of being together in a smart way at all levels. So smart people, when you have smart people who make smart choices with whatever they do with their waste, however they go to work, whatever transport they use, whatever energy company they use, however they decide to heat their homes. This is all the choices that we make in everyday life. Then if the smart people have smart solutions such as low emission transport, such as passive houses, such as waste to energy plants where they can sort of reuse their waste, or where the waste that they cannot do anything with can be still reused, and when they don't have to dump the waste to the landfills, let alone forests and other places that were mentioned. And when they have when they could cooperate with energy producers, for instance, allowing them to use the energy that they have available in the most efficient way through virtual power plants, for instance, or where the industry could, for instance, sell heat to heat producers instead of or reducing the need for producing heat from other sources. So when you have smart heat networks, open district heating networks, and when it's all combined with the management, with local governments understanding the complexity of the issues and being able to provide all the solutions or facilitate all the thinking, that I think is a smart city, and that's something that where I would like to live. And I think with some of you mentioning the trend for people to move to the cities, I think that's the kind of cities that people will in the future select. They would not want to live in those cities where the air is not clean, where the water is polluted, where you have emissions. I think that will not be a conscious choice. So I think that's the aim that we should all have in the back of our heads. If I can just add one more sentence, because I got interrupted, and you all mentioned that waste to energy plants. There is still a lot of misunderstanding about waste to energy plants and misconceptions, and I wanted to say just to add two things, that even if we keep recycling things, they will get too old to be recycled in the end, and there are all still recycling residues that you have to do something with, and there is nothing else. The only choice is between disposing at the landfill and reusing or recovering heat or energy from it at the waste to energy plant. Also, I think that not many people know that you can actually recover metal in waste to energy plants. So you have mixed waste where you would not be able to recover metals which could be reused again. And that's what we do. We can extract metal from the bottom ash, and we can use this metal for instance, automotive industry. And the same with the bottom ash. It doesn't stay there. We use it in construction industry, or you can replace sand or gravel with the bottom ash waste. So there are other aspects about waste to energy plants that not all of us are aware of, and I think that's the main misconception is that it's a fight between, or there's this competition between recycling and waste to energy, which is totally not the case. It's a complementary thing, and it's part of the modern waste to energy system. So just these 2 points about waste to energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella, very much, and thank you for also finishing your first sentence. And I think it is important, as the knowledge and the information is something that makes those smart decisions, as you said. However, we need to understand that also the utility function of each individual may be different. So how to make that everybody has at least similar goals with regards to the environment, with regards to waste, etc. So Hans, for you, what is a smart, sustainable, circular city? Is Copenhagen already such a city?
working on it. And then I will also repeat a bit from Lars, saying that, of course, it is about value chain, because it's not the single points you'll have to deal with. It's the whole thinking about it. And it's about partnerships, corporations, and be integrated and be agile in your thinking. Always see new options, new possibilities, and take that. I think I'll stop here. Oh, one thing extra. We have just finalized a EU co-funded project, Force. You can find it CE-force.eu, and there you can see something about the circular thinking we have in Copenhagen, and also in Hamburg and Lisbon and Genova.
Okay, thank you for this information. And Lars, for you, what is art?
Yeah.
City?
Yeah, I have 3 words I would like to put on the circular or the smart city. Is that it is create space, support, and educate, and it's create space for being circular. It could be the space for the repairs or the reuse or exchange of product, which Piotr mentioned. It's also support both citizens and industries in educating themselves, support initiatives which they come up. They have a lot of good ideas, and of course education. And at Stena, we are very happy to take an important role in that as well. And I motivate you to visit some of the initiatives we are taking. We have the Stena Circular Economy Award for industries and students, and right now we are running the Circular Challenge, which is for non-governmental institution and local governmental units and schools, where we, because we have a 20 years anniversary this year in Poland, we will support the 20 best ideas with some grants so they can be implemented. This initiative is running till 20th of July. But I think it's create the space to be circular and then support and educate the initiatives and educate the citizens and the industries. I don't know if I'm still heard.
Yeah. Fredrik, any thoughts from your side? What is a smart circular city?
Yes, that, to say it short, that must be that smart city, smart solution must be to clean the water before it is discharged, and try to use it as many times as possible. That's, I think, the bottom line.
Okay, sure. Thank you. And Piotr, you have this last word over here, and probably it will be remembered. So please, from your side, you're Polish, you're living over here. We were trying to tackle the challenge that Polish cities have, and we know. So for you, what is a Polish smart circular city, or what should look like?
So I always look at the circular city as a vision of the city of tomorrow, and so I would also distinguish smart city and circular city, because I think smart city is much more technological advancement and technological aspects of the city. And for me, circular city is the city where all the main flows of resources and the materials that are used within the city are mapped, and all the waste is as well mapped. And then there's created around that, it's the creation of industrial symbiosis between different main producers or facilities, institutions that can exchange those materials to use them as efficiently as possible. And so that's my vision of the circular economy. And the basis for that is basically the data collection, that we need to collect all the data about all the flows of energy and resources and materials. And from that, then you can create all those connections between people and companies. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Piotr. And that's why I think it's still smart. I mean, you cannot make a sustainable circular city without being smart, because the technology can be really, really helpful over here. So everybody, thank you very much for all your thoughts and sharing your ideas and your experience also. I think it was a very, very good discussion. Hopefully we had a little bit more time, but I hope there will be still chance to talk on another events, and especially that they start to be in live. So it's always nice to talk also in the halls with the coffee cup in the hand. So have a great day and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good afternoon from Poznan. My name is Tuomas Asmuma. I'm a board member of SPCC and entrepreneur in Poland 10 years now. My company Spondeo is providing market entry consulting and remote recruiting services. And last year we helped over 30 companies from Finland to enter Polish market. So let's start the discussion. We surely have a super interesting 45 minutes ahead of us. I warmly welcome all the panelists for this session about the smart means green and technology for cities, and about all the opportunity it enables in Poland today and in the future. I think we have a fantastic group of panelists here, and I have an honor to introduce the team. First, we have Katarzyna Pąk. From Ericsson, she is the head of strategy, marketing, and communications. Then Adam Tarkowski, environmental director, Skanska. From Finland, another one besides me, Peter Ylén, principal scientist from VTT, as we pronounce it in Finland. From Volvo Group, we have Marek Gawronski, public and governmental affairs vice president. And from Sweden, from city of Malmö, Roland Sinkernagel, sustainable strategist. So let's go. I have done a bit of a homework about your projects and prepared a couple of questions for you about this framework. After this round, we will have a couple of short and effective, maybe entertaining questions about smart and city technology. And let's start from Ericsson. Not only you have been in Poland actually over a century now, but you have done a lot of cooperation with the cities. And right now, for example, you have a project going on in Wood, where you involve, of course, the public sectors, but also startups and the big teleoperators as well. So, Katarzyna, could you open a little bit what kind of business opportunities and what kind of new, perhaps, ecosystem this will open in a 5G network, and what kind of challenges also you might find over there?
I use the proper word, ecosystem. This is like a key word for 5G. And we started with 5G introduction 4 years ago, trying to find startups ready to work with for 5G. And then it was not really easy to collaborate with and find the right solutions and explain theoretically how will it work. So right now, for 2 years, we are really lucky that we can work with good partners who can support us to build this ecosystem. 5G, it is not just technology, it is the way it changed the way of how we will develop and enter the technology into our business and daily life. And that's why this collaboration is unique, and it's really necessary and extremely successful. Which special economic zone is gathering us as a moderator of those solutions, as a supporter, and as well as a company who built the network, test network. They joined as well industry and startup representatives. And as well, what is important, there are money related with those projects, which are navigated by which special economic zone to accelerate those projects. So at the moment, there are like 40 startups who were verified through hundreds of applications, which solutions can be used in the future by the environment, by the industry, to develop and to work in the 5G. In which we have 2 test networks actually. One, which Ericsson has built at Łódź Polytechnica, and another one in Łódź Special Economic Zone. So there is this ecosystem and environment which allows to apply startups to develop their solutions. And of course, it's not a limit on to Łódź only. We are lucky that in Łódź we have our R&D center. In Poland, Ericsson R&D centers are located in Łódź and in Kraków. And Łódź, it's a big supply of our engineers who can support startups to develop. But at the same time, we really need people to employ. That's what we are desperately looking for on the market for developers, because we want to employ more just because it is developing, it's growing industry. So ecosystem and also which allows to develop 5G and verify how much we can apply those new solutions. It's like a key factor which will enable us to introduce new solutions in 5G. Do I answer your question? Because I can develop more.
Yes, I have a very short additional question for you. You mentioned those 40 startups. Are these local companies from Łódź? And in the other way around, are you open for Scandinavian companies to join the Łódź project?
Well, they are limited. They are, it is related with the money which are provided by the Polish government. So we are talking about Polish companies and Polish startups, and in companies and industry which is based in Poland. So if you can say, for example, Miele company is international company but based in Poland and has the factory in Poland. Startups can apply from different places all over Poland. Online connections allowed us to work together to develop and accelerate those projects. Acceleration does not require, personal meetings. Of course, it's nice, but pandemic has teach us a lot how to work right now remotely. So this is first that you can apply. Second, then there is a variety of applications. It's starting from industry and applications which are applicable in the factory, and finishing with the restaurant applications. So there are no limits. It's a question how useful will it be, not only for me, for my environment or for my company, but also for others. You can replicate it.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to the Volvo Group. You also cooperate with Ericsson, and you have, for example, the electricity project in Göteborg. And of course, Volvo Group is one of the global leaders when it comes to the green transformation in the transport. Your one goal the green goal has been that you be getting rid of the petrol, etc. engines by 2030. But Marek, please tell us how smart the vehicles can be still, and how this will change the public transport ecosystem in the future.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So Volvo Group, we are producing, we are the manufacturer of trucks, buses, and construction equipment. And just to let you know that the buses which are electrified, we only produce electrified buses for public transport. In Europe, those are engineered and produced in the only complete buses factory in Wrocław, here in Poland. So we decided to offer only electrified buses, and those vehicles are really smarter and smarter. Of course, there are several trends in automotive industry, which is connected to electromobility or electrifying of fleets, and another one is digitalization. The other one is automation, and altogether it makes that the automotive industry is changing in a really fast pace. As a company, we have targets. We are also fully aware that challenges which are facing globally are linked to the global warming, to the congestion, traffic safety, energy scarcity, air quality. And those challenges are also changing our business models. And we are also aware that around 20% of energy related to greenhouse gas emissions, this comes from transportation. So therefore, our responsibility is not only to make the innovations, but also to change those business models in a way that we improve also them into the positive social impact. So one of those interesting projects you mentioned is the one in so-called electricity. This partnership, we call that partnership, that was between the city, region, private sector, academia, city of Göteborg, of course. One of our partners together was or is still Ericsson, technical universities, Chalmers and Lindholmen Science Parks. So this project was aimed to test new products and services in the field of travel and transport. And we have already started the project, the idea, almost 10 years ago, 2012 or 2013. And this project was conducted from 2015, when first we tested electric buses on famous so-called line 55, and then we added line 16 with Arctic buses. There were several examples of projects. So we designed future bus stops, for instance, indoor bus stop, silent stops. We created zone management where we can check the air quality or the noise level, which gave very interesting results. So also we tested pedestrian and cyclist systems to improve the safety. So several criteria and several fields has been tested, and this was also aimed to really improve the sustainable public transport system in the living system that was of course tested on life. On life, yeah. So I think this is quite interesting. Of course, all those outcomes, results we implemented to our vehicles. Several technical features tested and implemented on our buses, electric buses. Currently, could be also used and use the synergies for electrified trucks within the group.
Thank you. Super interesting. One question that you mentioned, the cooperation between the science park and the university. So did this bring up any new innovation, for example?
This is important because today, if we look at the public transport, it's not just to produce buses and put them into operation. It is really important as new business models and new solutions are developed, and the buses are fully electric, and we can measure the energy consumption to use other solutions like automation we can test. And this really requires cooperation, not only within the private sector, but also with academia. This is really important, but also with the energy companies and the city planners, urban developers. This is important. So several network solutions also, I think, has been developed to support sustainable transport, public transport.
All right, thank you. Let's move on. Peter, from VTT, you are involved in so-called City Tune project, and you offer, for example, decision-making tools and scenario simulations for cities. Not only in Scandinavia, but also you have had projects in Nepal and in Africa. What kind of improvements this has meant and generated for the citizens of the cities, and how do you see this smart city framework from the global angle?
I'm glad you asked that. I think major things in smart cities, they are not clearly depending on technology. So it means that there are so many other things in the ecosystems like consumer behavior, policy making, incentives, and all of these have to be put together at the same time. So if you just put legislation on and there's no business opportunities for companies, it's not going to work. And if you just try to change people's opinion, but there's no offering in green solutions, then nothing is going to happen. So I think a very interesting case is something we did for Saga City in Japan, where they have a lot of rice straws, which is problem waste because you cannot burn it. It's causing corrosion for the burning equipment. And they wanted to create a circular ecosystem of all these different things together. And there are certain parts in the ecosystem
Peter,
that's not. Did you? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear.
Sorry about that. So if there's a missing, if it's a missing piece in a business ecosystem that is not profitable for some player, then that's a challenge. And
it doesn't work again.
Okay, let's try to move on. Peter, we have difficulties to hear you, so let's go back to you at the end of this round. If you mind, let's move to the buildings and the real estate side. And Skanska, you have done a lot in terms of smart and green buildings, both in Poland and in Scandinavia as well, and you probably have the highest certificates possible in this matter. I am curious, Adam, how smart and how green the new buildings can get, and how much opportunities you see that they are still in the Polish market. And one thing also is that in this panel, the whole session, not here, but also the previous ones, we haven't really discussed about the pandemic that has been bugging us recently. So did this change the way that the buildings will be smarter and greener, or was it just a temporary hiccup, so to speak?
Yes, I think what is very important is to start saying that the buildings are critical part of the city, and among many other elements such as transportation, such as digital infrastructure, I would say that the buildings are shaping very much the city. So from this standpoint, I would say that defining the word smart is very important, and from our standpoint, I would say that smart can be considered in 3 dimensions. So the first one would be how the building is integrated with the city. So how it fits the neighborhood, how it fits the existing infrastructure, how it works with the already existing infrastructure. So that's the one dimension for smart. Another thing is related to how it meets the human beings' requirements, how it can ensure the health and well-being, and recently, when it comes to pandemics, how it can ensure safety, and that's I think something new, something we didn't consider too much. So that's second dimension. And when it comes to the third dimension and developing smart buildings as a part of the smart city, is definitely related to its environmental impact, because as we know, looking at the different scale, there is always some impact, and bearing in mind climate changes and climate targets, it is very important to consider also that. So starting with the integration with the city, with the neighborhood, we are, as you very well mentioned, we are certifying all our buildings with the most requiring certificate schemes, and that includes LEED, so more environmental certification, well, that is more focused on human well-being, and we recently we have added to that well health safety rating, so the one that makes sure that the buildings we develop, the buildings we use, ensure high level of security and high level of safety when it comes to the cross infection and other threats for human being. And last but not least, we are introducing to all our projects so-called in Polish Bez Barrier certificate. So that's the certificate that covers architectural barriers related to so-called universal design. So making the space available and enjoyable for everyone. So when it comes to integration, a couple of years back, or I can already say many years back, we were very much focused on building only. But it has very much changed, and we have started working with the neighborhoods, analyzing the local needs and introducing the solutions that can create the valuable space for the city. So not only considering an office building as a place to work and then go away, go elsewhere to relax, go elsewhere to go back home, but also a space that is out of office hours, that is used by local communities, by the people that are passing by. So to create the space that is utilized in, I can call it a smart way, and a way that meets the needs. So that's the first angle, and then when it comes to the human well-being, this is very important aspect of every smart city, I would say, because as we live in a city, we need to have a space and we need to have the proper infrastructure to take care of our health and well-being. So not to mention the indoor climate, the way that we design buildings and we introduce different technologies, different sensors to make sure that in the building you will get the premium indoor climate, premium sound comfort and thermal comfort. It is very important that we develop the infrastructure that lets you have different kinds of physical activities, such as either stretching or training at the gym. All the buildings are for quite many years already equipped with the infrastructure for runners and bikers, so you can comfortably use the time you spend commuting on taking care of your well-being. So not necessarily finding time after work, after you're back at home to take care of your health, but going hand in hand with the infrastructure that is developed in Polish cities. It is creating fantastic opportunity to really take care of yourself, and together with the showers, with the lockers, with the safe racks for the bikes, it's something that makes you. I would even risk the statement: think better in the course of the day, so be more productive and be more satisfied with your day. That's the second dimension, and last but definitely not least, when it comes to the smart development, smart building, climate and environment is something to be definitely taken into account. And we have 2 years back we have committed to become climate neutral as a company, including supply chain, our operations, and operations of the building that we sell. So we're putting a lot of efforts in order to develop buildings in the places where it can be used in sustainable way, to develop it using sustainable materials, sustainable technologies, low carbon solutions, and then and design it in the way that future users are also having proper tool in order not to have negative impact on the environment. So that's a very complex I would say definition, I guess, but it has to be properly balanced in order to be able to say that we're developing sustainable, that we're developing our projects as a part of the smart city.
Thank you. I think I'm not the only one who is waiting to get back to the full office life, but probably remote work.
I'm happy to be at the office today, and I came here by bike with this beautiful weather that we have in Warsaw today.
Yeah. I wish to make the office life great again. All right, let's go back to Peter. I understood the connection problems on your side have been fixed, so go ahead.
Yes, hopefully you can hear me now properly, and if don't, then just point out. I was telling you about the Saga City in Japan and the sort of circular ecosystem there, and what we did, we combined rice straws ecosystem with fabric circulation ecosystem and construction wood waste ecosystem to create new businesses for fiber-based products. And this is creating less waste for the citizens and business opportunities for the companies. And this is just one example. So what we do these management flight simulators for different cities around the world. When you have a very complex problem and you want to combine traffic and 5G and citizen sort of good living standards and health and everything together, it's a very complex problem, and decisions you make, they have very long tails, and you should make the right decisions, and that's why we do these management flight simulators, where you can test all kinds of decisions and collaboration in ecosystem and see all these difficult bottlenecks and what kind of opportunities and what are the leverage points, what are the small things you have to change in order to make huge wanted behavior in the smart city. So when we do it for cities, then we call it management flight simulators for cities, and this is our city tune. And when we do it for private companies, then they are looking how to make business opportunities in smart city context. And then our biggest customers are Mitsubishi and Hitachi and ABB and Nokia, and they want to see how to change their products in smart city context and how to go for service and how to do things in complex ecosystem in smart cities. And this will be a benefit for citizens and city and companies as well. So we are aiming to create these win-win-win scenarios with all different companies and citizens and third sector and public sector. And this is basically things we do.
On a practical level, as a citizen, what would be some one example that what is the gain for me? Probably not direct, but indirectly. Something that I don't see or understand necessarily.
Some is service creation. So what we do different kind of services for business and individual citizens, and then you get more targeted services that you benefit more. And you don't see that these have been tuned with mathematical modeling and artificial intelligence and different practices, but you just know that things are running smoother and better to you. And health services are one example, and education and children activities and these kind of things is another one.
Will it end up to pay less taxes?
Hopefully, so if you put money in something that is inefficient and doesn't work, then of course it saves money. And this is in many cities now when you have coronavirus sort of rampant around the world. We are doing actually one sort of city management tool for city of Espoo, where the aim of this tool is how to recuperate after coronavirus. So what kind of things the city decision makers have to do so that you go for the new normal. So there's not going back to the situation that was before coronavirus, because then the world is different. Companies will do more distant work and these kind of things. And now the city of Espoo has to decide how to boost green businesses in after Corona and how to make sure that these bankruptcies don't happen and how good quality of life for the citizens. And they are using these management flight simulators for trying all different policies, and they can simulate 100,000 times and do sensitivity analysis, all kinds of future things that hasn't happened yet. And if this happens, what will happen after that?
All right, thank you. Lastly, we have a city perspective from Malmö. Roland, you represent one of the certainly leaders of this concept in Scandinavia and in whole Europe. I have a broader question for you, is that how important it has been and is and will be in the future for Malmö to be smart and green in terms of attracting new investments, but also attracting new inhabitants for the city?
Well, I mean, as you said, excuse me, Malmö has been working quite hard for the last at least 20 years to become green and attractive and sustainable. Now, this is obviously a complex picture, and there's lots of different activities that the city is carrying out, and there are many different aspects that need to be weighed next to each other. Do I improve this? Do I improve that? Can I create synergies, or do they actually counteract each other? So the city perspective is obviously very, very broad, and attracting investment is, for obvious reasons, a very important aspect. One reason being, of course, it provides employment opportunities for residents in the city, or at least or nearby. But at the same time, and this is points that others before me have already raised, obviously, we as a city administration, we can do everything we want to become sustainable, but we can't do it by ourselves. We need to include and cooperate and work together with the private sector, the other public sectors, if I may say so, with academia, with the citizens, not least with NGOs, etc. I mean, everyone needs to pull into the same direction, into the direction of sustainability, of building a sustainable Malmö, and the investments are necessary both on the city side but also on the private side, and we need to pool our resources basically in order to get this done. One thing where I just want to throw in a word of caution when it comes to smart cities. I mean, it's not the first time that we want to become a smart city, right? I mean, we had great ideas in the 50s, 60s, 70s, which we declared, oh, this is smart, this is the way forward, this is how we're going to live. And now we're tearing our hairs out because it's just, don't do it ever again. I'm thinking, for example, of the city of the 60s, which was very car dependent, and you separate working and living areas, and people need to transport themselves over long distances and so on. Well, we now feel like this was not the right way to go, but in the 60s, it was absolutely the smartest thing to do. So we cannot really be sure what is smart, because when we plan and develop a city, we need to consider a very long time horizon. If you think like buildings, if Skanska builds a building, I mean, it should be standing there for at least 100 years. Hopefully we can remodule and rebuild, but at the same time, it's going to be there. So at the same time, what we're building now, we don't know what the world, what society will look like in 100 years. How we live? I mean, again, the pandemic showed us how quickly we can or have to adapt our lifestyle, and these are uncertainties that we face when we decide what we invest in and what not.
Do you have a vision where Malmo will be in 10 years?
Yes, of course. We want to be sustainable. I don't know if we manage in 10 years, but at least we want to get closer. And this is a way of trying error and testing success and failure, basically. And hopefully from every failure we learn. So I'm not saying that we should never fail, because this is where we learn. And I'd like to see the city as some kind of platform for piloting and testing, where companies and NGOs and whoever can come and try out new ideas and see how they work. And that, as I said, this is what will push us or move us in the right direction, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you for all of you for the round. I think we have 8 minutes left, so we have a time for 1 or 2 very short and effective rounds. And talking about the future and talking about opportunities and maybe dreams, I have a very simple question for you all. Let's have a quick round. What would you do if you have all the money available? What would you do in this framework? Katarzyna.
Well, I think I can support my answer with the report which we released today, and that we asked urban people around the world how do they expect to use new technologies. So in 2025, we will spend 10 hours more online. Pandemic time has teach us that we can do e-learning, we can do work remotely, we can do a lot of things at the same time. We will dedicate more time as well for friends, family, and healthy living. One of my conclusions after hearing all of you and from knowledge which I have about technologies which we introduce is the fact that we don't want our way of living separate between urban and rural, and that we would like to have the similar standard of living, and have access to everything what is possible in both places. And that is what I believe will invest our money, the standard of living, which we would like to increase, time spending more effectively, working and enjoying, when commuting, joining our e-health living with and health living with our work. So that is something what we'll try to find the new solutions. And what is interesting that 64% of responders, they expect that the stress of living will still increase. So that the new opportunities will also push us to be more developed and take care of the time in catching up. So that is what I believe will happen also in the next years, coming years. So good technology, but at the same time the advantages which it will give, and we have to learn how to apply those solutions to our daily life.
Adam, how about you? What would be your dream?
I would say, relating a little bit to what Katarzyna mentioned, I would say that it is very much evolution, not a revolution. So money, as you said, even with all money available, it's not like that you can invest and make the city smart in one day. Because first of all, we're just humans. We're getting used to things, and in order to transform city into something that we can call smart, assuming that smart is positive expression, whatever it needs. It definitely requires time for us to adapt and to change behaviors. So I would say if I have all the money, I would definitely what is positive for sure for us as human beings, as inhabitants of the cities, and then invest into adaptation of human behaviors. As it was mentioned, when it comes to the city of 60s, at that point of time, we thought that driving a car to the workplace or to the shopping mall, it's something best. But now we know that it doesn't really support our health, our well-being. So I would invest money into making sure that we know the direction, and then starting investing in convincing people to get this direction. And then when we have the demand in place, all the things will happen immediately.
Thank you. Marek, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so from my perspective, and also representing a company producing vehicles, so for sure we will continue and we should continue to invest into the development of sustainable transport, both public transport and transport of goods. That this is no doubt, and we know that demand for logistic for transportation will grow. We saw it already during the pandemic times, where there was much bigger demand for transport of goods. Yeah? People didn't go to shops, and the logistic forwarding companies, they really had a lot of things to do. So for sure, continue to invest into the zero emission transport. Just an example, we have just launched a pilot project in Poland for the first serial produced electric truck, Volvo truck, and during 2 months, together with our partners, logistic company No Limit and IKEA and H&M, we will test this electric zero emission truck into the daily operation in their logistic hubs in Grodzisk Mazowiecki and Pruszków and Warsaw, and finally we will conclude that also to test the truck on the highway, motorway between Łódź and Warsaw. So we are really investing in the sustainable transport, in the zero emission transport. We have plans to reduce the CO2 emissions. So all those related activities, these are aimed on really become at the end the zero emission company, net zero emission company.
Thank you. Then we have how much? 2 minutes left, or 1 minute left. So can we have our guys in Scandinavia quick answers? Peter, you first.
Okay, if you want quick answer, there are so many places I could put money on, but if I put my hat on for decision-making support, I would say that the biggest challenge is data that is in different legacy systems and not usable and crappy data, and I would put money on sort of putting data together and creating platforms for combining data from different sources. And this would enable knowledge-based decision-making. So that was quick answer.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very exact. In other words, probably you would like to put dynamite on the old system and generate everything from the scratch. Maybe. Roland, you have the final word.
My quick answer would be to actually use the UN Sustainability Goals, Sustainable Development Goals, because I think they could provide a good framework for creating a vision. I think this needs to be done on a local or regional level, depending on the conditions. But not only to create a vision and a common goal, but also to use them as a sort of stakeholder process to include everyone, all different sectors, and identify how every single one of them can contribute to reaching that vision. This is where my money would go.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we have reached the time limit, 46 minutes. I think. Thank you all panelists for sharing your thoughts and your experience. This was truly inspiring session. I wish you a successful future in this matter and everywhere else. And now I think we have closed the sessions today, and we will hand over the final words to Carsten Nielsen, our chairman of SPCC. Once again, thank you for you all for participating in this panel, and Carsten, go ahead.
Everybody can hear me, I hope. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Scandinavian Polish Chamber of Commerce, I would like to say thank you very much to all of you for listening to us and for all of those that participated. We had some very interesting presentations and discussions, and I'm sure some of these topics we will come back to at some stage in the future. We all want to live in a greener city and be part of the developments. So again, on behalf of us, thank you very much and have a super day and a nice time and enjoy the beautiful summer weather that's here now. Take care. Bye-bye.